That's true. People can be selfish, Amina agreed. There was a brief pause. She seemed to have more on her mind. But if we're going to keep seeing each other, there's something I need to ask, she said. All right, what is it? Fred responded. Are you someone so focused on being nice that you overlook expressing your own needs? Have you ever actually told someone how you felt? Asked them not to do something? Explain an issue and tried to work through it? Honestly, it feels like you expect people to understand you just because you're nice. Fred looked puzzled. What do you mean? I mean, that staying quiet and avoiding conflict doesn't solve anything if the problem is never addressed. Why would someone change their behavior if it benefits them, and the other person never speaks up? Being nice isn't the same as being kind. Real kindness involves being honest and addressing issues fairly, even when it's uncomfortable. That makes sense. I agree, Fred replied, his voice more thoughtful now. Amina smiled wryly. Do you really? I've dealt with selfish people too. But sometimes people become so determined not to be selfish that they end up acting selfishly focused on being liked and avoiding tension instead of acknowledging how their actions affect others. That too is selfish. At least with direct people, you always know where you stand. They may not be right all the time, but they respect you enough to be upfront. They sat quietly for a moment, her words clearly resonating with Fred. Sorry if that was too direct. I just want to be honest. We're at an age where there's not much time to waste, she added. Yeah, I understand, Fred chuckled. So, are you free next weekend? We should plan something. Fred hesitated, then replied, maybe we should take things a little slower. It was only the second time Fred had spent time with his new friend Aubrey outside of school. Aubrey was essentially Fred's first genuine friend, the first person for whom Fred truly had to apply everything he'd learned about being kind and connecting with others, with something important on the line. They had just come inside after biking around the driveway. Aubrey quickly went to the living room couch and asked Fred, Do you want to watch Star Trek? Fred replied neutrally, Do you like that show? Yeah, it's my favorite. It's really good. What about you? Aubrey asked. Yeah, let's watch it, Fred answered. They watched quietly for the rest of the afternoon until Fred's parents came to pick him up. Fred had seen the show before but didn't like it. Still, wanting to be kind, which to him meant putting others' wishes first and avoiding conflict, he agreed to watch. Almost every time they hung out after that, Aubrey would put on Star Trek. Fred sometimes tried to suggest other activities, but he never expressed his true feelings. By the end of the school year, Fred simply stopped spending time with Aubrey, quietly frustrated that they rarely did anything he wanted. Aubrey was confused and upset by the sudden distance. When he asked Fred, Fred was vague and dismissive. Years later, in high school, Fred joined several small friend groups. With more freedom, a driver's license, and a desire to be active, Fred spent far more time with friends outside school than ever before. He had to juggle plans between people and himself. Whenever invited to hang out or help someone, Fred, fearing disinterest or upsetting others, almost always said yes. Because he agreed so often, he frequently had overlapping plans, leading him to cancel many at the last minute. Throughout high school, Fred spent little time on himself, his hobbies, interests, schoolwork, or peace of mind. He often felt drained and taken advantage of, doing far more for others than for himself. Secretly, he grew resentful of many friends and family members. By graduation, his unreliability cost him some friendships, and he intentionally but mysteriously ended most of the rest. Many were confused and hurt by his disappearance. A couple of years later, during college, Fred entered his first serious relationship with a woman named Tara. The relationship was wonderful at first. They connected deeply, and Tara was kind, funny, and interesting, revealing sides of Fred he hadn't known. He fell in love for the first time. But over time, things deteriorated. Tara would sometimes ignore Fred for days without responding to texts, go out with friends without telling him, act impatient, and request accommodations while neglecting his needs. By the third year, Fred no longer felt the connection they once shared. He valued being an easygoing boyfriend and avoided conflicts, so he rarely raised issues or pointed out Tara's faults. "We hardly ever fight," Fred told a college friend at a bar, "but I don't like how she treats me. She doesn't seem to understand who I am or what I want. I thought she did, or at least could, but now I'm not sure if she cares." "Have you thought about breaking up?" the friend asked. "I don't know. Maybe. I want to make it work. I don't want to hurt her. I'm not sure if she'd be okay without me. I guess I'll see what happens." Fred stayed with Tara for another year, pretending everything was fine, but he grew more distant. The breaking point came when he discovered she had cheated on him. Even then, he stayed for a few more months. She said she felt neglected and unloved. Fred said he would try to understand and forgive, but inside, he felt like ending more than just a relationship. Soon after, he broke up with her, realizing how foolish he'd been. It was one of the hardest things he ever did. After college, Fred started building his career. At 23, he landed his first relevant job, digital marketing coordinator at a mid-sized e-commerce firm. Fred eagerly accepted. At work, he always wore a cheerful smile and agreed to everything, even tasks beyond his role, offering to help whenever his manager or coworkers asked, fearing disappointing anyone. However, he often lacked the time or skills to complete many tasks. There was a clear gap between how he appeared interested and ambitious and how he actually felt about the job. Fred frequently overpromised and underdelivered. Secretly, he disliked his boss and most colleagues and resented how they took advantage of him. Fred stayed in this position for a few years despite it being below his skill level and without receiving better opportunities or pay. After 3 years, unable to tolerate it any longer, he quit suddenly without much explanation. Fred was likely one of the kindest people you could meet. He always prioritized others' happiness and preferences, never wanting to upset anyone, and was willing to go along with whatever others wanted. So when he was 28, alone with few friends, a short but complicated list of exes, and strained relations with past coworkers and bosses, he felt lost. Having had little social or romantic life for years and fearing total isolation, Fred decided to try dating again. At first, he struggled, but eventually met a unique, spontaneous, outgoing woman named Amina. On their third date, sitting at a picnic table at sunset, they talked about many topics, including personal reflections, which was unusual for Fred. He shared stories about old friends, jobs, and even exes. "I don't know. It feels like everyone's just selfish. That's definitely one thing I've learned. People have always taken advantage of my kindness. I've been nothing but nice, but I keep getting hurt," Fred said.